Hello, welcome to my channel, Devops with Prasanna. This is day 11 in We Learn AWS in 30 Days series. And today we are going to talk about logging and monitoring in AWS. This logging and monitoring is a very important cross-cutting concern. So cross-cutting concern in the sense, you'll be having multiple tiers in your application. For example, you could have front-end, you could have back-end, you can have database, caching, queuing, whatever it could be. But you should have proper logging and monitoring for all the components in your application. And that's what we are going to see today. And that is like one interesting demo which I'm planning to showcase today. That is based on a scenario. So this is what we are going to set up in today's session. So the scenario is, let's say you are getting too many error messages in your application. Okay. In that case, there is something wrong with the application. So we are going to analyze the logs and see if there are a lot of error messages. If so, we are going to send a notification. And we are going to completely do this with Cloudwatch and SNS. Okay. Yeah, I'm very excited. Let's get started. Before getting into Cloudwatch, we'll look at this two concepts, logging and monitoring briefly. Logging. So logs are the piece of information which give you insights about a particular request or about the application in whole. So whether the application is running fine or it's having some issues or not, you can use logs to track those information. Logs is like one way to track that. And with more and more companies adopting microservice architecture and having auto scaling mechanism in place, logs will be of very less use if you just keep the logs in the EC2 instance alone, within the EC2 instance. Ideally, the log should be forwarded to a centralized place, and you should be able to correlate the logs from one service to another. So that is the objective. Maybe just to give a short, quick understanding of that. For example, this is a request from user, and it's having a correlation ID, log correlation ID. Let's say this ID is 123. And you have the first service called A. And from this service, the request is forwarded to B. It is doing some processing, and it's getting request is forwarding to another service C. And from here, you are getting back the response. Okay. And this response is given to user. Let's take a very simple scenario in which the request is being sent to a microservice architecture. Okay. So in this case, what will happen is each and every service will produce some logs. Okay. So in our case, all the logs should be forwarded to Cloudwatch along with the correlation ID. So it will have the same correlation ID here. So if we want to query the Cloudwatch with this correlation ID, it is possible. And also if you want to have a full search capability and all, we can have a subscription mechanism and forward the logs to Elasticsearch, the ELK stack. And using the Elasticsearch, we can make all sort of searches and things like that. Okay. So this is like one route. And Cloudwatch will help us in setting up this at the infra level, so you don't have to worry at the individual microservice level. Okay, cool. The next one which I want to talk about is monitoring. So in case of logging, not all the services will have integration with Cloudwatch by default. For example, EC2 instance. So let's say you want to forward logs from EC2 instance to Cloudwatch. You have to set up some kind of agent. So this agent is responsible for forwarding the logs. But in case of monitoring, it's not the case. All the AWS services will have Cloudwatch monitoring by default. The time period can vary, or the polling frequency can vary, but all the services will have a very good integration with Cloudwatch monitoring. So what this means is, if you can just understand the Cloudwatch monitoring, it will be very easy for you to set up monitoring for more than 200 plus services in AWS. So monitoring is nothing but collecting again a piece of information which will help you to understand the state of the system. So and in case of having a custom metric being sent, you can understand the state of your application also. Okay, cool. So I talked about metric. So we'll see about monitoring in detail. So when it comes to monitoring, metric is an important concept to understand. Metric is nothing but again a piece of information. So for example, Let's consider the case of EC2 instance, and metric is, for example, CPU utilization. So this is one metric, okay? And the CPU utilization is, for example, for this particular instance, what is the CPU utilization at this particular point in time, okay? So that is the information being captured. And how it is captured is, it's a namespace. All the metric are namespace, meaning usually the namespace is a service name. For example, it will be EC2 instance. So EC2 service would be the namespace. And it will have the dimensions. Dimension in the sense, the CPU utilization can have dimension like instance ID, instance name, and things like that. It is the attributes of that metric, okay? And all the metrics will be time-based. For example, at 7:30 p.m. for this instance ID, what is the CPU utilization? At 7:35 p.m., what is the CPU utilization for this instance ID? So that's how the data is going to be collected. Mostly it's a time series data. So this is a metric, and this is a foundational element for monitoring. Okay. So like as we discussed, all the AWS service will send a bunch of metrics so that we know the state of that service. And what we can do with this metrics. For example, once you get a metrics, this metrics can be used to set up alarms. For example, if the CPU utilization is more than 90%, then you'll be getting a alarm. So we can configure things like that. Or we can configure dashboard where you can see the historic information. For example, like for the past 2 weeks, how is the utilization, CPU utilization of a EC2 instance? So why that is useful? For example, if you can get that historic information, you can decide on the capacity of that machine properly. For example, for the past 1 month, your EC2 instance CPU utilization is less than 10%. So the information which it is giving is, you should downgrade your system, or you should go for a different type of machine, like memory optimized machine or general purpose machine, not a CPU optimized machine. Okay. So all this kind of information, you can get it by having a dashboards, and you can have you can specify the time period, like for 7 days or for 1 month or for 6 months. So all this information will be captured based on like the retention parameter you set for the metric and things like that. And let's say like you create the alarms. So like in case of alarms, it need not stop at the alarm level alone. You can take some actions based on that alarm also. As we discussed, like if the CPU utilization is more than 90%, the alarm can be triggered, and that alarm can go and restart the machine, or it can trigger the auto scaling and can add one more machine to the pool, and it can do some actions like that also. So this is like the benefit of capturing the metrics and monitoring in Cloudwatch. So we'll quickly talk about the logs also. So when it comes to logs, you have to understand certain concepts in logs. The first one is log group. So log group usually denotes your application or things like that. So it is like it will be having collective, it's a collection of log streams. So let's say like if you take an example of a Lambda. So Lambda, like your Lambda function can be a log group, and within that Lambda log group, that could be like multiple invocations of Lambda. So those invocations can be your log stream. In case of like this application, your instance ID could be a log stream. Okay. So this is something which you can control. So log group is like it will have collection of log streams, and from this log stream you can have subscriptions which will forward the logs to a different system like ELK stack or Kinesis or whatever other service which you want to forward to. Or you can create some filters, and based on that filter, you can create a metric out of it. So the advantage in creating a metric is, again, you can set up some alarms, you can take some actions, and you can do all those things. Okay. And this is a flow which we are going to see. So for example, based out of logs, we are going to filter some specific pattern. For example, response code is 500. We are going to filter this message alone And we are going to create a metric, CloudWatch metric out of this response, out of this log message. And we are going to trigger alarm, do some action based on that. Okay, so that's what we are going to see in the demo aspect. But this is a core concept which you have to understand when it comes to blocks. Cool. So now we understand like what is the basics of logging and monitoring. We'll go into the demo aspect of it. So before going to demo, like I just want to show you what are the steps which are going to perform. So it will be having some, you'll be getting some knowledge on like what are the actions I'm doing. So first we are going to create an IAM role. So yeah, again, like I'll just quickly explain what is the demo is going to be about. So this is a scenario. So from our EC2 instance, we are going to forward logs to Cloudwatch log group. And we are going to filter out all the 500 response code. If it's 500 or error message, if it's erroring out, we are going to create alarm and we are going to send an email. So this is a flow which we are going to set up in the demo. So for EC2 instance, to forward the logs to Cloudwatch, we have to create an IAM role. So IAM role, and then we'll attach this IAM role to EC2 instance. Okay, so it can forward the logs. If you remember, like from the IAM session, there are two ways in which to achieve this. Either you can use access key and secret key, but that is not the recommended way. IAM role is a recommended way to IAM role is a recommended way for one service to communicate with another service. Cool. And then we are going to install unified CloudWatch agent. So again, like EC2 instance will not forward the logs by default. Like we have to install the agent so that like it can forward the logs. And once the logs are available in CloudWatch, we are going to create a filter for the logs for the error message. Once we created a filter, we are going to create a metric. So this metric is going to have all the properties we discussed before. Like it will be time series based, and then it will have its own namespace, dimension, and things like that. And once we have this metric, we are going to create a SNS topic to forward the email. And then we'll create an alarm based on some threshold. Let's say we'll say in the past 30 seconds, if we get more than three errors, then we are going to trigger a SNS notification and we'll get an email. Okay. So this is what we are going to do in this demo. Yeah, we'll jump into the demo now. So this is my AWS account and this is a home page. So I'm going to EC2 instance. And then I'm going to launch a new instance. So I'm going to give the name as in 30 days Cloudwatch. And I'm going to have Amazon Linux as OS. And this is fine. Choose 32 micro. And then Prasanna as a key. I'm going to leave the default VPC and subnet. But please understand the cost impact of this. The public IP is going to be charged. So in case you don't want to incur a lot of charges, like once you are done with the demo, please stop the mission. Okay. And then I'll create a new security group. It will allow the SSH traffic. We don't want to do any other thing. Yeah, all the other things looks good. So now I'm going to launch the mission. Okay, cool. So it is in pending state now. And this is the script which we are going to use to install the CloudWatch agent. Okay, so before getting into this mission, like we want to check one more service, which is the IAM roles. So if you remember, like we want to attach a role to this EC2 instance. So I'll go to roles. I'll create a new role. I'm going to say it's AWS service. It's going to be commonly used services EC2. And then here I'm going to attach a policy, Cloudwatch agent, Cloudwatch agent server policy. So this is what we want to attach to that role. Okay. So I'll give the name as Cloudwatch agent role. So you can see this role says any EC2 instance which has this role attached can do a assume role policy, and then it can talk to Cloudwatch. So that is a catch, and it can use this permission to talk to Cloudwatch. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we have Cloudwatch agent role. This got created properly. Now I'll go to my EC2 instance. The instance is in running state. I'll go to actions. I'll go to security. I'll modify IAM role. So currently there are no IAM roles. I'll use the Cloudwatch agent role. Cool. So we have all these details here. Now I'll select the public IP address. Now I want to SSH into this IP, into this instance. So SSH-i Prasanna.pem Ubuntu EC2-user at this public IP address. Okay, cool. I want to convert myself as a root user. And then I'll use the commands which is here. The first one is install the Cloudwatch agent. -y at the last is used so that like it will not prompt us for a yes or no. So it will by default choose yes. And this is a command which we want to use to create the configuration. So it will know like where to pass the logs and things like that. So I'll use the config wizard. Okay, the first question it asks is what is a OS? OS is Linux, so I'll choose default one. And then yeah, and it's going to be EC2 instance. And I'm planning to run it as root user. Do you want to turn start D? No. Want to collect D? No. Monitor any host metrics? Yes. Do you want to monitor CPU metrics per core? Yes. Dimension, yeah. So this is a dimension which is going to add for us. Image ID, instance ID, instance type. Yes, we want to add the dimension. Do you want to aggregate these dimension? Yes. Would you like to collect the metrics at a higher resolution? Submit. Maybe I'll say it has 30 seconds. Is a time limit in which I want to collect the metrics. And then I want to go with the basic configuration. So this is a monitoring. This is a metrics which we are going to collect. Remember, the agent which we are installing is called as a unified agent because it can send the metrics also and it can send the logs as well. So that's why the name is unified. Cool. So I think like all this configuration looks good. I'll say like it looks good. Do you have any existing Cloudwatch agent? No. Do you want to monitor any log files? Yes. Log file path is /temp learn AWS in 30 log. Okay. So this is a log file which we want to monitor and forward the logs to Cloudwatch. Log group name is good. Standard is fine. Default as instance is fine. Retention is going to be -1, which means it's going to retain the logs forever. Good. Any additional logs for monitoring? No, I just want to monitor only one log file. X-ray traces, I don't want to do it now. So this looks good. If you see the logs collected, it's going to keep polling this log file, and if it has any logs, it will forward the logs to Cloudwatch. I think this looks good. No. Cool. So the first thing is we have set up a CloudWatch agent with the configuration also. If you want to see the configuration, this is a command which you can use. So this is a configuration, and this is a location of that config file. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll just check the status of this agent which is running there. It is in the stopped state. So I don't need to stop. I'll just fetch the configuration. Okay, it's valid, and then it created a symlink also. Now I'll just start the configuration. Cool, it started as well. If I go and check the status, so it is in the running state, which is good for us. Now what I'll do is I'll say echo hello, yes. And then I'll forward this log to temp/locationals. No need to do something like this. Okay, so I'll create a file with this message. Echo hello learners to this particular file. Okay. Yeah, it just sent me this message also, but because I used a triple exclamation. I see this hello learners, and then we have the information here. So just to like, if I put double exclamation, it means repeat the previous command. So that is a shell command for this shell expansion. So if I do this double exclamation, you can see my previous command is cat. So and then it run the commands also. So this is the actual output of that command. It's a quick tip. Yeah. Cool. So now we have the log forwarder setup. Now we want to go to Cloudwatch. So this is a home page of Cloudwatch. Okay. And here you can see different sections, logs, metrics, and there are like traces and other things as well. Maybe like this is some advanced topics which we can see in the later sections. But we'll go into log groups. Okay, you can see there is already a log group created, which is learn AWS in 30 days. Okay, and if I go into this log group, you can see there is a log stream as well. And this log stream is our instance ID. So we go into the stream, you can see hello learners, and this is a message. Okay, cool. So we have options like start tailing. So if I start tailing, and if I write some logs, let's say echo, this is a new message. And if I just append it to temp, learn AWS in 30 days, you can see in few seconds, it will come here. Because we set the frequency as 30 seconds, it will take a little bit time, but it will be available in CloudWatch within 30 seconds. Okay? Yeah. So this is a message which we got here. So this is the first part of our setup. So if you remember, like from the instance, we could able to forward the logs to Cloudwatch. Okay, cool. Now what I'll do is I'll create few more messages. Let's say error, something got cached. We'll say first something got cached in the application. Response 500. I'll write this message to this file. This is something which your application is going to do. So your application is going to write the logs to a specific file, or it will write to the console, in which case you can read it using the journal D or some commands, some utilities. But in this case, we are writing it to a file. This is a file, this is a log file which your application is generating. Okay, but in this case, we are manually generating that file. If I go here, you can see something got crashed and the application is okay. I'll send one more message. This is a message 2, where something got cached. Okay, cool. So we'll see that information also here. Now what we want to do is I'll cancel this one. I'll go to log groups. And then I want to create something called as create metric filter. So I want to filter by pattern error. Okay. And I want to use this particular instance to filter out the error message. Okay, so these are the log messages available. And if I apply this filter pattern, you can see the pattern worked, and we have only two messages here. Error something got crashed, some error something got crashed again. Okay, now I'm going to create a metric out of just logs. That is the most important piece. I'm going to name the filter name as custom error metric. Okay, metric namespace. I'll say like my custom namespace. Okay, it's going to create a new metric and then enter the metric name. So metric name is going to be custom error metric value. So like for example, when there is one occurrence of this particular message, what should be the value of that corresponding thing? If you remember, like all the metric will have some value. Okay, in this case I'm giving 1, which means for one message, if it matches the pattern, it's going to have value as 1. Okay, and all the other things are fine. So the filter pattern is error, and we are going to create a metric called custom error metric. Create metric filter. So cool. So we have a metric and it is in this namespace. Now what we'll do is we are done with this log side of things. Now we'll go into the monitoring side of things. So you can see there is a section called metrics. Okay, I'll go to all metrics. Maybe just to give you like a quick understanding, this is a dashboard for monitoring. Okay, you can see different AWS namespaces, one for each and every service. For example, we used application load balancer, application ELB. We have used SNS. Okay, we have used NAT Gateway, RDS, EC2. So for each and every service, we'll have a namespace here. And if I go into a namespace, for example, EC2 namespace, you can see metric like CPU credit balance, CPU credit usage, CPU utilization. I can just filter it based on this utilization, R2 search. Okay, and then maybe I can give it here. I'll give the just like say for past 4 weeks. You can see at some point in time we have a metric value, and this is a time-based value. You can see at 26 to 29, which is 8 p.m. 8:10 p.m. There is a value. It has a value of 16%, and after that it gone back to 0 or something. Okay, so this is how you can look at the metrics, and you can create a dashboard out of it also. For example, like add to a dashboard. So you can create a new custom dashboard, and you can add this graph to that dashboard and do things like that. Okay. Now we'll come back to our metrics. I'll cancel this one. So what I'll do is I'll just create one more log message here. This is number 3. If I create this metrics, if I go to log group, and if I go to the levels, and if I search log group, we can see there is one more error message which we got here. Okay, and if I go to metric and if I do a refresh, I was just looking for the namespace which we want to have. Yeah, the custom name, my custom namespace. So this is a namespace which we have created. So I'll go into the namespace, and there is one metric available for us, and this name is called custom metric, custom error metric. Okay, so I'll just use this custom metric. Okay, so what I'm going to do is from this metric, I'm going to create an alarm for this metric. Okay, create an alarm for this. Okay, my custom namespace, custom error metric. Instead of average, I'll say sum over the period of 30 seconds. Okay, and it's going to be based on static value. The value is greater than or equal to 3. It means something is not correct in the system. Within the 30 seconds period, if I get 3 error messages, I in my use case, I'm saying like it's something is not correct. Okay. So I'll go to next page. And then this will be in the alarm state. So there are 3 states for alarm. One is OK state, which is everything is fine. The second one is insufficient data, which means there is no data available for this particular metric. So we can choose whether it's fine or not. The third one is in alarm state, which means something error happened or some issue happened here. So in case of in alarm state, I want to create a new SNS topic. Send email notification topic, and I'm going to send it to my user ID, email ID. Okay, I'll say create topic. So we are going to see this SNS in detail in later sessions along with Lambda functions. But you just want to know, like using SNS, simple notification service, we are going to send email to our email in case of any alarms. Okay, so this looks good. Also, this is the other actions which you can do. For example, based on this particular alarm, either you can trigger the auto scaling also. Or if it's going to be a easy to instance specific metric, for example, we saw CPU utilization. So if you use those kind of metrics, you can add an action to EC2 instance. For example, you can stop a EC2 instance. You can restart a EC2 instance. You can do all those things like that. But in our case, we are going to simply send a message. That's what we are going to do. And the beauty of this is this Lambda. So this is something which we are going to see in future sessions. But if you can, in case of any alarm state, if you can trigger Lambda, which means you can do anything there. Lambda is like nothing but a serverless function, which means you will be having access to code and you can do whatever you want. So this is a very powerful method to take action in case of any issues. So okay, in this case, we are just sending an email and we'll create the alarm name as custom alarm for errors. And this is how the text is going to be. Hello, this is custom. Okay. Cool. So this looks good. And if you see the current status 0 or the current status 1, I guess. Okay, this is fine. All this things looks good. I'll do a create alarm. We can see the initial status insufficient data because it didn't send any. We didn't send any data as of now. In the last 30 seconds period. So this is we have to do some action here. Yeah, I'll go to another service called SNS, and I'll just approve the send email notification. So if I go to this one, we can see the pending confirmation in this email. So for the SNS to send email properly, I have to approve it first. So I'll come here, I'll say confirm subscription. Okay, subscription confirmed. Now if I go here and do a refresh, you can see it is confirmed. So this looks good now. And if I do a refresh here, this is also good. So still it is in the insufficient data. Now what I'm going to do is, I'll start tailing here. I'm going to send 3 more error messages. Issue got that angle. This is 4th message. This is 5th message. 6th message. And 7th message. So there are 4 error messages within 30 seconds time period. Okay, this is a catch. And if we go here, we got the 4 error messages also in our Cloudwatch logs. Okay. Now we will go into this alarm. We can see our custom metric, custom alarm got triggered because we can see like this is a threshold which we have set. 3 is a threshold. But we have 4 error messages and it crossed the threshold. Now currently it is at 4. Okay. So in this case, what it will do is it will send a hello learners. This is my custom alarm email to our email ID. So if we go into my email You can see there is a custom alarm for alerts. And it will give the details like description, hello learners, this is my custom alarm. And you can see 1 out of 1 data points, 4.0 process threshold of 3.0. And this is what we have to do. Okay. So this is a very simple action which we have taken, because our focus is on metric and logs. Okay. But in later sessions, we'll be taking we'll be using Lambda functions to trigger something like a little bit complicated one. But for this session, I think like this looks good. So we could be able to get the alarms also. Yeah, so we reached the end of this session. Hope you liked the session and the demo which we saw. If you like the way I teach and explain the concepts, please consider subscribing to my channel. Also, like share the information with your friends as well. Yeah, happy learning. Bye-bye.